to introduce him next. We have to wait for a minute.
He was here a moment ago, so he can't have gone too far.
I think he'll be back soon.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
We can hear you.
We can start. We can start.
Yeah. Let's start. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the IDSP Competition 2020 on behalf of Alexandros, Xafopoulos, the coordinator of this event. My name is Danni Shi, a PhD candidate in the Department of Culture, Communication, and Media at the UCL Institute of Education. I will be chairing today's session. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And before we start, Alexandros will give us a brief introduction about this year's competition. So I'll hand over to Alexandros.
Thank you very much, Danni. I'm going to share my screen now. Where is the setting function? Yes, great. Yeah, okay. Just a moment. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes, yes, we can see.
So, this is my first slide. Is it okay? Is it appearing? Danni?
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you. Welcome. I would like to extend a very wide welcome to all of you. It is a very nice experience to be among you, even if in the distance. I would like to briefly introduce our competition and project before we go into the core part, which is your presentation. So, as we can see, here is, my name is Alexandros Xafopoulos. I'm the IDSP coordinator and also coordinator for the IDSP competition, which is taking place today. Here is the logo of the project, and here is the logo of the competition. On the bottom left corner, you can see, can you also see my pointer, or it is only showing the slide? Danni?
I can see the first slide.
Can you see my pointer?
We
can see your pointer. Yeah,
it's fine.
So I'm showing now the IDSP-IE handle and the hashtag with my pointer. So these are how you can find us on social media. Actually, this is it should be 20 here, 20, not 19. So we have three parts in today's session. One is a journey, because we're traveling with our minds to several countries. We're going to travel to China, Eswatini, India, Kuwait, Taiwan, UK, Turkey. So it's very engaging to know all of these countries, and even more about European Union, Africa, and several other continents. So we also have a group discussion. So the group discussion is meant with the opportunity that you can ask questions in the chat mainly. We may consider also having questions spoken, but for now you can keep your questions on the chat while someone else is speaking, so we can have a Q&A, short Q&A session. And finally, we have a voting process, which is represented by the third image here. And this refers to the way to announce our three winners, let's say, or medalists. This year, we're introducing a new term. Last year, we had finalists and competitors. Now we have medalists. So the first three places, which is IPDY, second place and third place. So IPD-wise, IOE, postgraduate taught dissertation of the year. So IDSP, as an umbrella, now that we have the competition under, is a student-initiated project. So it's not a staff project, it's not official project. It's something that is run by students and is, let's say, informal in nature. So it is not expected to give you, let's say, awards that are going to be in your CV in very prominent places, but it's more about the learning experience and the connecting with each other and learning with each other. We started in 2017 when I was a faculty representative for IOE, and we had 6 presentations and 1 conference. In 2018, we tried the competition for the first time, holding a quarterfinal, semi-final, and final session. And in 2019, we had 2 sessions, departmental and faculty. This year, we're holding just 1, trying to encompass in 1 the 2 rounds. But instead of being departmental and faculty, we're giving different aspects, let's say finalists and medalists. So, as I said, I'm a coordinator of the project. I am a UCL Institute of Education postgraduate alumnus, and I am a past faculty representative. So the aim of the project is to help education, psychology, and social science postgraduate students excel in dissertation research. And the method is by holding an annual competition. This is the one that we're doing now. And you can find comprehensive information on the project on our website, uidsp.wordpress.com. Now, regarding our competition, it's an engaging competition under IDSP that initiated in 2018. You can find the program for this year, including abstracts and bios, on our website. Most of you will already have looked at this. It's uidsp.wordpress.com/IDSP20C program/. This year we're introducing a new format. So the previous 3 years we were running face-to-face competitions or sessions. This year is the first time we're doing online, and we would like to ask you to bear with us because there may be several technical issues, and we would like to try and find solutions, but we may have face some challenges. We're using the Microsoft Teams, and we have our team actually running the session at the moment. And we have 2 rounds, competitors and finalists. Is the network okay? Danni?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Also, I saw a message saying that maybe the quality is not very nice, something, but it's okay.
Yep, from...
Okay, so our objectives. We have 2 objectives. One is generate space for sharing experiences, information, and support about dissertation processes. And the second is to hone skills that have to do with creativity, presentation, decision-making, time management, and cooperation. There are several roles in the project. So even though there are several roles, there are few people that are willing to volunteer and undertake this role. So these are played by usually 1 or 2 people or 3, and this makes it a bit difficult. So coordination, chairing the session, managing the media and IT, reviewing and sending emails or messages, all of these are under the team. And we also have the main part, which is the competitors, which are the ones that are, let's say, the main actors. Now, this year we have 11 shortlisted competitors, ordered by department and program. So I would like to say your names. So as a, let's say, a small gift for you for the effort that you made. So Group A, CCM department, Ahmed, Marybeth, Tianjin, Yu-Ting, Department DSS, Hannah, Department EPS, Isabel, Georgina, Eleanor, Revati and Philippa, and Department PhD, Danni Shi. Congratulations for all your efforts. So for us, I think you are already winners that you made it up to this point. So please don't try and be too competitive and say that I was second, I was third, I was not first. We're trying to play a game here. We're not trying to compete for the award, where there is actually not a formal award out of this. We just want to learn together. So let's see the preliminary stages of the competition. So we started with a call for abstracts, then submission of abstracts, then reviewing the abstracts using the 6 criteria, feedback and score was given back, notification of acceptance, 3 sequential online tasks. After the acceptance, we have the bio task, the slides task, and the video task. Each of them with criteria, feedback, and score. And here is the leaderboard. So here you can see this is not formal. It just represents points according to the tasks for each of the competitor. If we have a tie in the results, we can use this one to resolve the tie. And then you see here we have the abstract points, the tasks 1 to 3, merit and distinction for the tasks, optional tasks, total points. But these are not very much to be taken into account. So today's program, after the welcoming, now we're in this introduction. So what follows is the competitors round and the finalist round. In the competitors round, we're combining groups A and D, which means CCM department, TSS department. So we have the 4 from CCM competitors and 1 from TSS. And we have, after the presentations, we have a selection of finalists, but the results are not announced at this point, but later. Then we have group C and F from departments EPS and PhD. I'm not going into detail about how the departmental structure is at the moment because we are not so much in it, but we just follow this because we started from previous years. And here we have from EPS department the 5 competitors and from PhD 1 competitor. And then we have the announcement of the finalists. Actually, the selection of the finalists from the second group E and F, and then announcement of finalists and display of results. So again, we're going to show the results, but it shouldn't be you feel disappointed because you're expecting more. It's just see it as an experience to learn in a let's say engaging way, not as a competitive way. So even if you appear low in the results, this does not reflect your research quality or research level. It is just a result of a game. Let's say. And here, after this, we have the finalist round, we have the finalist elevator pitches, and the medalist selection. So out of the 6 finalists, we have 3 from the first, 3 from the second, 6. And then we're selecting 3. We're hearing their pitches and then voting. Then we're announcing the 3 medalists and the results and congratulate these 3 medalists and allow them to say a greeting. What are the main stages? The competitors round, announcement of finalists, finalist round, announcement of medalists. And as we said, we have the 3, gold, silver, and bronze. The gold one is the IPDY, which is IDSP PGT Dissertation of the year. In the competitors round, we have 4 groups and 11 competitors. There is a 5-minute presentation by each competitor. Then we have a critiquing question. So Danni, our session chair, is going to ask you a critiquing question, and then you have to defend your presentation, trying to be similar, let's say, to a viva. And then if there is time, we can accept questions from the audience using the chat message. The presentation consists of introduction, framework, collection, analysis, and findings. We already have the slides. The selection, there are 2 parts. The first part is for the first group, the first pair of groups, the second for the second pair of groups. And then we have the announcement of 6 finalists and the results for the competitors. Now in the finalist round, we have the 6 finalists. Each of them is giving their elevator pitch regarding funding the research. And then we have a selection. We are voting again. And we're going to see how this works later. And then we have the announcement of medalists and the finalists round result. How the selection works now. So how is the voting working? In the first selection, we have 3 finalists from the groups A and D. For the second, we have 3 finalists from the groups E and F. And the last is the selection of 3 medalists from the 6 finalists. So there are 3 selections. The selection is a digital voting that is performed by the participants. So it means anyone that attends the event, the organizer, the competitors, the attendees, all of them have the opportunity to vote and are actually encouraged to vote because we want to engage and participate. You are given 3 minutes to cast your vote. You have to go to the site sly.do and you vote as event code IDSP. If you do it now, you are not going to see the poll. So I have to activate it first. When I activate it, you will be able to vote because now it's not yet time to do it. Each competitor has 1 entry. So you see here, each competitor has 1 entry. And each participant selects 3 entries. So you can select 3 out of the 5 in this case. And then click send. This is how it works. And we are consulting the leaderboard in case of ties or bias. If we're detecting bias or there is a tie, we can go to the leaderboard and see who is high in points and select them. Now, when you vote, in the past we had feedback that I think we were not clear which criteria should we use to vote. So you can use this criteria. Quality of description of the problem, research outline and process, the need for research and funding, the ability to communicate research with non-specialist audience, clear conclusions, creativity of presentation and audience engagement. So this includes body movement, speed, tone, clarity, and modulation of voice. You see many aspects. Eye contact, visual impact of the slides. So there are many aspects. All of these play a role. You can consider them when you are voting. Uniqueness of content and delivery. So something that is not just a replica of another researcher, but something that you try to be unique. Also, in the master's level, is not so easy to do so. Finally, congratulations and short speeches. So we have the 3 medalists, bronze, silver, and gold, first place, second place, third place. These are announced and congratulated by me, the coordinator. They are offered 1 minute talk on their IDSP experience. So what I'm waiting for you is to say how you liked the experience. Was it useful? Did you learn? Did you have problems? Anything that you would like to say. And finally, the gold medalist is announced IPDY20. So in terms of coverage now, so this competition is recorded as you should have already seen, and parts of it are published by the organizers online. Participation to this competition means consent to this. So if you don't agree, you can withdraw and leave. The participant, now, let's say someone says, I'm a participant, can I take a screenshot or record it? Although it is a challenging aspect, we can say that we can allow for non-commercial use. Except if there are any confidential parts, we think this year we don't seem to have a confidential part in the slide. But if there are, please state it in your presentation and say this slide is confidential. You can publish, you can even publish a screenshot that you took, but this only if you send a link to the organizer and say this is what I published, and also use the hashtag of the competition IDSP20C. So this is the hashtag of the competition. You can use it also for online discussion on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and these are the profiles that we have, IDSP-IE. And this is our my last slide. Again, I would like to extend my warm gratitude and wishes to all of you, the 11 competitors, for the cooperation and engagement. What I saw from your tasks was very promising. Some of you seem to do wonders in your submission. Also, our session chair, Danni, for chairing the session and critiquing your presentations. Program leaders, academics that help promote the project and assist with this. And finally, the ones that participate in the session for engaging and feedback that is expected to happen. So our message is, let's engage and celebrate and be positive. So whatever happens, if you come first, last, third, see it as an opportunity to celebrate, not something that you may find that is not what you are expecting. So your expectation should be how you can enjoy the session, not how to achieve the first place. We are going to be happy whoever is first. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you in your presentations now.
Okay, thank you, Alexandros, for giving us a very detailed introduction. And as Alexandros just said, this year we have 11 presenters competing for the IDSP Postgraduate Dissertation of the Year from different departments at the UCLE. I will now introduce you to our 4 presenters from the Department of Culture, Communication, and Media. They are Ahmad Jaber, Marybeth Martin, Tianxin Yan, and Yu-Ting Huang. I like to remind our presenters that you only have a maximum of 5 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for Q&A. I'll put a countdown on my phone. Once you hear the alarm ringing, you have to end your presentation. Okay, let's start with our first presenter, Ahmad Jaber. Ahmad holds an BA in English Language and Literature from the Arab Open University in Kuwait, and he is now pursuing a master's degree in applied linguistics. His research interests include the study of language in social categorizations, surveillance, and security practices, and the social reactions to these practices. His current project focuses on the diasporic Bedouins' political activism during the present global crisis. Ahmad is now going to tell us more about his research project. Okay, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice talking to you today. As I explained earlier in my video presentation, I am focusing on the political activism of the diasporic Bedouin community. And what intrigued me is why they are doing political activism during a crisis. You know, now COVID-19 pandemic, and everybody is trying to keep physical distancing, and everybody is worrying about their health. So this was the motivation for this project, partly, and also because I personally belong to this community. And throughout my interaction with the participants, I decided to configure my ethnographic study into a political project itself. So what I'm interested in, to see how the participants interact with the governing regimes, and how through their interactions they enact different persona and bring in different social meanings, and through these performances they exercise power and position themselves in certain ways that they like, as opposed to what the governing regimes have been trying to frame them. They used to frame them as aliens, as illegals. So I used ethnographic observation, focus group, and I used also ethnographic interviews. I spent time, I followed the participants in different places, observed the different interactions and practices. The methods that I use to collect the data are the observations and the interviews. Then the analytical lenses through which I looked at the activities, the data I collected from the activities, were thematic analysis and hermeneutics, which also tied to a larger set of theoretical and analytical lenses, namely Foucault's analysis of power and Bakhtin's and Goffman's performance, identity performance analysis. What I found throughout my ethnographic study, that coming to the question, the first question of the research, is why the activists were doing this political project during this time in particular, was that their fear and they perceived a danger of the regimes abusing power against them. So their activism was a kind of precaution, and at the same time reaction to abuses of power by the governing regimes. A second finding was that the violence and the experiences that they had been through were emblematic of a larger problem, that the governing regimes were using this minority group as an example to exercise power and control over the larger society. And this has led me to argue, and in response to discourses on securitization, surveillance, and power regimes, to rethink of conceptualizing power on minorities as a form of exercising power on majorities, because in reality we are all in it. You know, what someone's experiencing today will be exposed to someone else's. So based on this, I think the activists in their struggle with the governing regimes were perceiving a danger more than the pandemic. So that's why it is vital to call for a social action to address their questions. And this leads me to emphasize the importance of this ethnographic study, especially for decision makers and policy makers, that especially in a diverse society like the UK, when you are dealing with diasporic communities doing activism, this should inform also civil society, and to focus on the needs of this community, also to understand the causes of their struggle, because at the end of the day, they are integrating and engaging in the larger society here in the UK. So this is why I think this project is worth funding, and I hope this clarified some of the ideas about it.
Danni?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just muted myself. And perfect timing. You just you ended your presentation in time, and your presentation is really engaging. And I do have a question to ask you, and that is, how did you choose your?
Danni,
I can't hear anything. Sorry, your mic.
I'm sorry. I mute myself. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I just said your presentation is very engaging, and I do have a question to ask you. That is, how did you choose your participants? Because it's a very serious topic, and also will your project pose any potential impact on your participants?
Actually, to answer the first question, some of the participants are my comrades back in Kuwait, because we started the Bidun movement back in Kuwait. So the selection was based on their engagement already in the Bidun activism. They're working on issues like statelessness, some of them based in the UK, some of them based in Canada. And it's very political, very sensitive also.
Yes.
Very few people would be encouraged to participate. So when I proposed the idea for them, they were able to to accept the invitation and participate. So both because they are already engaged and because they are willing to participate in this political initiative. This is number one. Number two, of course, it will pose a threat without anonymization.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were using false names, false identities, except the leader of the movement. One of the participants, he insisted on disclosing his identity because he is in Kuwait already, and he's exposing himself because he's the leader of the movement.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next presenter, Marybeth. Marybeth is also doing an MA program in applied linguistics. She began her teaching career in the US and is now an English for academic purposes tutor at the University of Access International College. Her research interests now focus on the effect multilingualism has on the mind and brain. Specifically, she is interested in both memory and the attentional control aspects of cognition and how these might be benefited by various types of language acquisition. So Marybeth, the microphone is yours. Please feel free to share your screen if you need to do so.
Okay, thank you so much, Danny. Yeah, give me just a moment and I'm going to share my slides. Can everyone see them?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So like Danny said, I'm going to be speaking about bilingualism and working memory, and then also how different experiences might be a predictor of foreign language aptitude. So the background for this study comes from evidence that we have from neuroimaging research that tells us that learning new skills, such as a foreign language, can change the brain structure and function. And now what's interesting about language is how much we engage with it every single day, whether we realize it or not. Our brains are constantly accessing and processing, storing and managing all the languages that we use every day. So this has led to a controversial issue called the bilingual advantage theory, which proposes that speakers of multiple languages may have enhanced cognitive ability, such as improved memory or control of their attention. Now, there is a large body of evidence that suggests that this actually isn't the case. Bilingualism isn't responsible for that. And one of the possible explanations for the body of counter evidence is the way that we are defining who bilinguals are. The word bilingual in and of itself cannot be a standalone variable, and this is because there are so many different experiences surrounding how we learn languages, how we use languages, different patterns that we can observe in speakers of multiple languages. And so what I wanted to do with my research framework is try to isolate distinct bilingual experiences. So this was positivist primary research. It was experimental in nature and quantitative, with the exception of a language and social background questionnaire that I needed to do to help me control for some confounding factors. So my two questions that I wanted to answer were how different bilingual experiences could modulate what we call phonological working memory, and that is just another word for short-term memory. Okay. My second research question had to do with a specific group of bilinguals that I identified, and I called them instructed bilinguals, and I'll explain in a moment what that means, and how or whether they could perform better on a series of vocabulary aptitude tasks. So when I did my data collection, again, I had two groups. There were 20 participants in each group, and they were between the ages of 18 to 40. So we would classify them as young adults, which is important when you're talking about cognition because we have to factor in the natural development and decline of cognition throughout the lifespan. My heritage bilinguals were speaking a family language at home that was different than the dominant language of their country of residence, and my instructed bilinguals were university students who were in the final year of a language degree that was also different from the dominant language of their country of residence. Both groups of participants had to be resident in their countries before the age of 5 years old, and that again was to control for the impact that immigration can have on cognition later in life. My primary recording methods were online, of course. I used the SciToolkit platform to host 2 working memory tasks. I used SurveyMonkey for my LSBQ, the background questionnaire. And fortunately, the 2 aptitude tasks for vocabulary already had web-based versions, so I was fortunate enough to use those on Zoom with my participants. My participants were recruited mostly through social media due to the pandemic, so it was a lot of convenience and snowball sampling, and it was interesting because they were location independent, so I was speaking to people from all over the world, as long as they met the criteria, of course. This was all statistical analysis. I used group mean comparisons, t-test, and then a bivariate Pearson correlation analysis. And these were between both groups, so the instructed and bilingual mean scores for each task in the study. And then the correlation analysis was again between the working memory tasks and the aptitude tasks to determine if working memory capacity influenced language aptitude. So I was quite excited with one of my findings, and it did align with my hypothesis that the instructed bilinguals, because they were actively in the process of acquiring a language, might have faster response times. And indeed, on one of the working memory tasks, they did have faster response times, and these also seem to have a strong correlation with one of the vocabulary inferencing tasks that determined language aptitude, how well you could potentially acquire vocabulary in a foreign language. And this may support the bilingual advantage debate.
I think you can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is a really.
You can continue a little bit.
Okay, yeah, so we're almost finished. It could support the bilingual advantage debate, but only for specific experiences. And likewise, it will also promote adult education. And again, as Danny said, I'm interested in how language education impacts the mind and whether this could be an intervention for cognitive decline and perhaps aging populations, or for those who suffer, we say cog fog or brain fog due to some sort of neurological condition. And those are my references, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Marybeth. It sounds like a wonderful presentation, a wonderful research project. And my question is, what's the practical implication of your project? Why do you think it's important to investigate bilinguals' foreign language aptitude and working memory capacity?
So the idea behind investigating it's to put to rest this debate. So this debate over how bilinguals may have better cognitive abilities has been ongoing for the last 2 decades. So much research has been done on it, but it just comes down to being able to isolate specific experiences. So it was contributing to the field by being as specific as I possibly could within the limitations. And by choosing aptitude, I didn't want to just decide whether or not these groups had better working memory capacities. I wanted to take it a step further and try to simulate a real world experience. And I thought, because learning a language is already very cognitively demanding, I could maybe simulate that through aptitude tasks, such as attempting to acquire vocabulary through sound and through what we would call inferential learning, which is just implicit learning. So it was to simulate a real world task, as well as performance on just baseline kind of basic behavioral tasks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your answer. And Adam says it's a really interesting project, and you make sorry, not Adam, but Georgina. I'm so sorry, Georgina.
Oh no, it's fine. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And if you are interested, you can go to our website to check more information about Marybeth's project. You can see her abstract. It's posted on our website. And
Danni, just a moment. May I ask, who of you is not in the UK? I think Tianxin is in China.
Yes, I'm back home now.
So is it after midnight there?
Yeah, it's like 1 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in India, so yeah.
India?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the rest of us are in UK. Anyone else outside UK?
Yes, I mean, Revasi can be the next presenter. Just find her bio.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Just keep it in the same order. We can just be patient.
Sure.
Just
no, I can. Yeah. I can wait. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep the order, because we may. I just asking.
Sure. Okay. Our next presenter is Tianxin Yan. And Tianxin is studying MA Applied Linguistics as well, holding a BA in English. Tianxin is interested in language and ideology. Specifically, she is interested in exploring how power relation and social inequality are reflected and legitimized by discourse. Her current research deals with Afrophobia on Chinese social media sites and aims to unpack racist discourse in cyberspace through a combination of quantitative and qualitative methods. Tianxin, we're ready to hear your presentation. Feel free to share your screen.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so
yes, we can see your slides.
Okay,
and
I'm really glad to see you guys here. I'm Tianxin from MA Applied Linguistics, and welcome to the IDSP 2020 competition. And my dissertation today is the Anti-African Racism on Chinese Social Media, a corpus-assisted discourse analysis. To begin with, I'd like to introduce why I find this topic interesting. Firstly, anti-African sentiment on Chinese social media appears to be growing. For example, the language used is getting increasingly abusive, and there are more and more fake news that aims to stigmatize people of color. In addition to the online Afrophobia is the rising power of social media, because social media communication enables power produced from the bottom up, and may thus pose a threat to the well-being of the thousands of Africans living in China. Thus, In order to find out the what and the why of such online hostility, this study asks, how is the Black identity represented by social media racism, and what topics are made salient in the racial discourse against the Africans? This primary study is both descriptive and explanatory, and draws on Stuart Hall's thinking of race and identity representation to make sense of the online racism. Next, let's go to the data collection. The data was collected from the posts of 5 racist Weibo users during the past 12 months, and the Afrophobia corpus is composed by all their posts that contain the keywords Black people and Africa. They are identified as representative of racist voice because they all frequently use the racist hashtag anti-Black and green. All the bloggers are from China and post in Chinese. The average followers of the 5 bloggers is 100,000 and they post over 2,000 tweets a year on average. They all identify themselves as news, history, or education bloggers in their profiles. Now let's go to the data analysis. For the quantitative analysis, I used the program AntConc to extract keywords that appear frequently and to further identify the collocates to see which terms co-appear with the chosen keywords. In the qualitative analysis, I selected representative tags of a specific keyword and used the approach of CDA to analyze it within the social, historical, and political context. And these are the findings. On the left is the top 100 keywords sorted into different topics, and the top 30 words are marked in red. The first finding is that racial essentialization and homogenization are common strategies to represent and construct the African identity. For example, the keyword intellectual quality is among the top 30 in the corpus, and the tags are mostly talking about how Black people in the world, no matter where they come from, are intellectually inferior and inherently violent. The second finding is that anti-Africa racism on social media reflects the anxiety of the perceived marginalization of the Chinese identity. The corpus analysis suggests that members of this community believe that Africans are not only prioritized due to the global trend of political correctness, but also favored by the Chinese government. For example, the word overseas Chinese is frequently mentioned in the corpus, and it often co-appears with terms of violence and crime. The discourse analysis shows that these posts are mostly reporting how overseas Chinese are violently assaulted by African Americans and how the latter usually escape penalty. These are often followed by discussions of how the global political correctness is overprotecting Africans and consequently nurturing their nature violence, and how the Chinese, importantly, are excluded from the umbrella of the political correctness. Another salient topic is that Chinese government is also prioritizing foreigners over the native, especially international students from Africa. For example, when the users are talking about African students in China, they often refer to them as the foreign lord. The term was historically used to indicate the superior position of Western colonizers in Chinese society in the late 19th century. Through recontextualization, we can see that bloggers are using it in a sarcastic way because the constructed fact is that although African students are intellectually inferior and violent, the government gives them special treatment and even prioritizes them over local students. Based on the research, one important implication is that while speech censorship on Chinese internet is extremely strict, racist speech like this, however, can go unchecked. Thus, one recommendation is that a more reasonable censorship and hate speech detection system should be established. It also points out the necessity to improve public education of race and culture regarding the blatant essentialism and homogenization. The limitation of this study, however, is that the sample scale is relatively small. And these are the important references I quoted in this research, including the methodological instruction from Baker, Stuart Hall's theory, and the case studies of Chen and Puffman. And that's all about my presentation today. Thank you for listening. Hello?
Perfect timing, Tianxi. I'm sorry I mute myself again, and there are only 10 seconds left. And my question is, do you think the data that you collected or selected from the corpus is representative?
I selected the keywords that are ranking at the top 100 and is specifically the top 30 keywords. So I guess that would be the most frequent element that appear in people's racist speech when they are talking about why and how they hate African people in China.
And why do you choose this specific social media platform?
Excuse me, Tianzi,
because
can you stop sharing your screen because it's appearing. So that we can,
sure.
Yeah, so that we can
I'm
see
sorry about that.
Your yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, so because I chose this platform because this is basically at present the biggest social media platform in China, and the number of users on this platform is still growing. And as a social platform, like it's similar to Twitter, so it enables like following the bloggers that you're interested in, and to repost and to participate in the discussion, which provided a perfect platform on which people can engage in the topics that they are interested in, especially those topics that they may find stigmatized in other places, such as racism ideologies.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your answer. I do agree with that. Danni's comment, and she said it's a wonderful study and so timely. I do agree because we all know the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'd like to welcome our next presenter, and she is Yu-Ting Huang. And Yu-Ting is a postgraduate student from the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages TESOL Pre-Service MA program. She completed her bachelor's degree in English at the National Taiwan Normal University and launched her teaching career as a high school English teacher in Taiwan. Her current research interest concerns the field of learning autonomy. She also aims to investigate autonomy-supportive pedagogical practices and teacher professional development regarding learner autonomy in EFL instructional contexts. Yu-Ting, you can start your presentation now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so let me just share my screen for a moment. So can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No, I can't see it now. If you click the button in the middle, it's a rectangular shape with an arrow.
Can you see my screen now? Yes, no, yes? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, I'm Yu-Ting Huang from UCL. Today I'd like to share with you my dissertation topic, Language Learner Autonomy in a High School Curriculum, Taiwan Novice EFL Teachers' Perceptions and Practices. So firstly, how many of you have tried figuring out how to build up some muscle during the lockdown? Or maybe just like an MA student like me, for the past few months you're wondering, oh God, just how am I going to write this dissertation? So from trying to build out some muscle to trying to write your dissertation, a very important capacity is involved. That capacity is called learner autonomy, or the capacity of becoming an independent learner, and is fundamental to learning success. But how do we promote seemingly...
Excuse me, Yu-Ting, can you hear me? Yu-Ting, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
It seems that your slides are not showing as you want, because we just see now your main slide. We cannot see the muscle slide.
Really? Oh.
So
what
please,
should I do? Like this?
You can continue by being aware of this, because you may not be aware and you may assume that we can see the slides, but we cannot see the slides. So if maybe you have the slides one on top of the other, and that's why it shows just the one of them. It's not so interesting. So
see my slides now? Can you see my slide?
We can see.
Can you see my slide now?
No.
And can you see me moving the slide? Can you see me moving the slide?
It is only showing the first one.
Oh, so what should I do?
Sorry, on the Microsoft Teams window, there's actually a button that says move the slide on the Microsoft Teams window, I think. But it also says take control.
Is it moving now?
Someone else can move it for you.
So is it moving now?
Yes, now it's moving.
Now it's moving?
Yes.
Sorry, can I restart my presentation? Okay, so I'll just restart. Okay. Hello, I'm Yu-Ting from UCL. So today I would like to share my dissertation with you. That is Language Learner Autonomy in a High School Curriculum, Taiwan Novice EFL Teachers' Perceptions and Practices. So how many of you have tried figuring out how to build up some muscles during the lockdown? Or maybe just like an MA student like me, for the past few months you were wondering, oh God, just how am I going to write this dissertation? So from writing your dissertation to building up some muscle, a very important capacity is involved. That capacity is called learner autonomy, or the capacity of becoming an independent learner, and is fundamental to learning success. But how do we promote this seemingly idealistic idea? One way is by integrating it into our curriculum. So in the past, most of the autonomy-oriented curriculum have been implemented at the university level. But in 2019, Taiwan has passed its autonomy-oriented curriculum for secondary education. But it's just like this tip of the iceberg. Although the autonomy-oriented curriculum seems like a visible step toward promoting learner autonomy, its local implementation is still under research. So this established my research purpose. That is to explore the implementation of an autonomy-oriented curriculum with the teacher perception study. So
Excuse me, you do one more time. Do you have your camera on? Because we cannot see your face.
What happened? Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can see your slide, but we cannot see your face. Do you have your camera on?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
We cannot see your face.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Your camera, the symbol of your camera it seems, yes, this one.
Yeah, but I can't click on it. I just can't click on it.
Because now because of using the slides. So now you have one of the two options, either the slides or the camera.
Yeah, so I chose the slides.
So you prefer the slides without your face?
Yes, because I don't think that it can be shared like both. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the other participants when they.
Okay. You can continue.
Okay, so two of my research questions look into teachers' perceptions and factors influencing their promotion of this autonomy-oriented curriculum. And this is a qualitative research that employ an interpretism paradigm with first-hand data. So my participants are 3 Novice high school English teachers from Taiwan. A purposive sampling was used. For my data collection method, a 16-minute semi-structured interview was used. Everything was audio recorded and transcribed later on. As you can see, my participants, they're from different types of institutions, either public high school or private high school, and these schools are of different academic performing levels. And for the data analysis, a semantic analysis from Bernard 1991 was used for both of my research questions. So although learner autonomy seems like the dream goal for teachers and students to achieve, here is the practical reality of this curriculum. Despite the effort of this curriculum, teachers consider the autonomy-oriented curriculum as desirable but less feasible. And you might wonder why. So a discrepant perception exists among teachers' answer. For one teacher working mainly with learners with lower English proficiency, she stated that if the new curriculum is designed for the elites, what can those students with lower English levels do with the curriculum? So basically, she reported that her students have trouble doing autonomy supportive activities when they do not have the most basic English skills. In other words, this curriculum is suitable for those students at the top of the pyramid, but might still remain inaccessible for those students with lower English proficiency. Another discrepant perception mentioned is about the institutional culture. So for the public high school teachers, these teachers mentioned that they enjoy a high level of teaching freedom, which can be beneficial to their curriculum promotion. But for the private school teacher, she mentioned that the exam-oriented institutional culture, the neglection of learner autonomy from the administrators, pressure from parents, and also conservative views held by teachers at her school greatly hamper her promotion of this curriculum. And one limitation of this research is a small sample size, and here is the implication from this research. So in order to make this autonomy-oriented curriculum feasible across diverse student population and institution, a holistic supportive system should be built from teachers, administrators, and parents. For teachers, teacher education should include learner autonomy promotional measures for learners with lower English proficiency. For administrators, school evaluation system on curriculum implementation should be built to push these school administrators. For the parents, resources should be provided to them so they are familiar with this new curriculum and the idea of learner autonomy so that they can help their kids. Finally, I would like to share a quote that I really like with you. Instead of a national curriculum for education, what is needed is an individual curriculum for every child. This is truly the passion for this research, that is to reveal the practical reality behind an implementation of an autonomy-oriented curriculum and to make sure that every child can benefit from it. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. These are my references.
Thank you, Yu-Ting. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Congratulations.
Okay, I'd like to ask you, what is the biggest difference between autonomy, supportive language learning, and teaching practice?
Hello.
Hi,
Sorry.
can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Okay. So my question is, what do you think is the biggest difference between autonomy, supportive language learning, and teaching practice and traditional teaching approach?
I think there are many differences. So for the autonomy supportive practices, they will focus on two approaches. One is learner autonomy approach. The other one is learner-based approach, and the other is the classroom-based approach. So for learner-based approach, teacher will focus more on giving explicit instruction on learning strategies, especially those that will foster metacognitive skills like self-reflection, self-evaluation, and also implementation of learning plan. And for the classroom-based approach, like teachers, it's very important for teachers to transfer control to the students, as curriculum is a negotiation between the teachers and the curriculum. So they will involve students in course decision-making and also employ different types of self-reflection techniques such as self-assessment, peer assessment, process assessment like e-portfolio. They will employ these ideas to make sure that these learners, they are aware of their learning processes, and also they are aware of how they do their learning. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It sounds like you know so well about what you are doing, what you are researching.
Thank you.
And our next presenter is from the Department of Social
Science.
Hannah Scott. Currently studying MSc Social Policy and Social Research, she holds a BA degree in Children, Young People and Families from York St. John University. Her current research project is to investigate university students' lived experiences of Class A drug taking and perspectives of drug education through the triangulation of multiple qualitative methods. She has previously worked in specialist units and has had a number of research assistant positions. So Hannah, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Right. So I'm Hannah, and today I'll be presenting my research on university students' experiences of Class A drug taking and perspectives on personal, social health and economic, or PSHE, drug education. So surveys suggest that student drug use is currently 4 times that of the general population, with the latest NUSM release survey suggesting that 39% of students are currently taking drugs, with 2 of the most popular drugs being cocaine and ecstasy, and these 2 are both Class A drugs. The government's current drug strategy stresses the importance of PSHE drug education and also the important role that education institutions have in delivering this to prevent young people from becoming drug users. Because of a lack of research that's investigating not only student drug use, but the longer term effects of PSHE drug prevention education, the purpose of this research is exploratory and descriptive to gain a holistic understanding into university students' lived experiences of Class A drug taking and the PSHE drug education that's taught in English secondary schools. There were two key research questions, the first being what factors contribute to university students' decisions to take Class A drugs, and the second being how does PSHE drug education influence students' Class A drug taking behaviour. The research is underpinned by ontological relativism and situated within a constructivist epistemological paradigm to not only gain an understanding into how students construct their lived experiences, but how they also reconstruct them based on previous experiences they've had and the beliefs that they hold. This is a primary piece of qualitative research and it uses interviews and the analysis of online forums and documents. There were three methods of data collection. The first were qualitative interviews that produced textual data. It was a purposive sample of 5 UK undergraduate students that were recruited through a gatekeeper, and I conducted asynchronous email interviews and virtual face-to-face interviews. Secondly, based on the Reddit discussion boards that participants highlighted during the interviews, I then used those Reddit subforums to select posts guided by the participants. And thirdly, I looked at government and charity PSHE drug education guidance and resource texts, including the programme of study for PSHE education and sample drug education resources from the Christopher Winter Project. The data collected from each of these methods was then triangulated using between method triangulation to not only validate the outcomes of each data collection method, but also to strengthen the research overall. The interviews were thematically analysed using inductive coding, taking an ideographic case study approach to the analysis. The themes that were then identified in the analysis of the interview transcripts were then used to deductively code the Reddit discussion board posts using thematic analysis again, but also using inductive coding, recognising that other themes and issues could come up. And then thirdly, a content analysis of the government and charity PSHE guidance was undertaken, as well as other sources that students highlighted their interviews that they used for information about drugs. I used a 12-step process for qualitative content analysis using the codes that had been identified in the thematic analysis of the interview transcripts to create a protocol to then analyse the documents. I had two key findings. Firstly, that social pressures were a factor that contributed to both those that had taken drugs before starting university and those that first used drugs at university, but the types of pressure that they faced were very different. Those that first took drugs before starting university were often in higher risk situations with older peers and felt pressure from them directly, whereas those that didn't take drugs until university tended to face social pressures from the environment around them, feeling pressure to take drugs because other people around them were taking drugs rather than direct peer pressure. Both groups also, the second key finding is that both groups also felt that significant changes to the PSHE drug education curriculum was required, but they had different priorities. Those that took drugs before university felt that students are likely to take drugs no matter what, so it's important to provide them with harm reduction education to reduce any adverse consequences. Whereas those that didn't take drugs until university felt that PSHE drug education was relatively effective, but felt it needed to provide them more knowledge and information about drugs rather than just saying that drugs overall were bad. A key limitation of this research was due to COVID-19, and due to those limitations, I was only able to recruit 5 participants, so the study has a particularly small sample size. But a key recommendation of this is that PSHE drug education in practice needs to place a much greater emphasis on providing young people with the skills to be more confident and resilient so that they don't give in to peer pressure or social pressures and therefore will reduce student drug taking overall. And here are my references that I used for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. I really enjoy your presentation. And my question is, what is the strength of triangulating different types of qualitative methods? And since you mentioned that you triangulate your qualitative data, and have you considered using a mixed methods approach?
So one of the biggest strengths of triangulating between different methods is that you could get data that strengthens, your research gets strengthened overall because the data that you're collecting from the different methods will help validate what you found. So the things that participants were saying in interviews was then also backed up by that was identified in Reddit posts. And similarly, that what they were talking about having learned in PSHE education was sort of backed up or contrasted with what was in the official guidance or in the sample documents. So that overall strengthens the research as it provides a greater breadth of information and just strengthens that which the methods are providing. And I did consider a mixed methods approach initially, but because of time constraints, didn't go ahead with this. But there's been a lot of quantitative research that has been conducted about rates of student drug use already, and there has been a lot about the effectiveness of PSHE education or drug prevention initiatives conducted in the US. But there's a severe lack of qualitative research that's investigating student drug use and the relationship with prevention education initiatives. So I decided to keep it purely qualitative, just to provide sort of richer qualitative data to sort of fill the gap in the literature.
Okay, thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, now let's move on to the next section. It's time for you to vote 3 finalists from the 5 presenters. Anyone attending this competition can vote, including all of you attendees, the coordinator Alexandros, and of course myself. You can vote by visiting the webpage of Slido, sli.do, and you can get access to this webpage using your laptop or your mobile phone. And once you open this webpage, and you can enter event code IDSP and find the polls to choose 3 representatives of your preference.
Danni, share your screen and show it. You can share your screen, go to the website.
Okay, sure, I just share my screen. Wait.
Can you share the voting link?
Yes, I'm doing so, but it's right here. So if open your web browser and you type Slido, and it will bring you to this result, and you click and open the web page.
So you can type slide.do.
So this is the address, yeah. And you can also Google Slido.
The www is optional, so you can just type sli.do, and if you press enter, it will appear. And then is there any problem with this? Because it's the first time we're doing it, we can explain it and see if you have any problems. Is there any problem?
No. Is there any code? Enter
yes,
event
code. The code is IDSP.
IDSP.
Yes.
Okay.
And join an existing event.
Yeah.
So it's move on to the next page, and you will see the question, which are the top 3 candidacies of your preference.
So you can even see how many people have already voted on the top right corner. So we can give you 3 minutes time. In the past we were giving just 2 minutes, but now we are giving 3 minutes. Because in the past we were asking only 1 option. Here we are asking 3. So you can choose 3 out of the 5.
Okay, I can vote for the other 4, right?
You can vote for yourself if you want.
I don't like my presentation.
You can vote for anyone, including yourself.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to vote for themselves.
So, Danni, can you play music in the meantime or something?
Yes, yes. So after you vote,
maybe it's better to keep it silent for the vote. If we can find the maybe, or you can show something on the screen from the presenter. So,
would you like to have a break? And after you vote, you can take a break, and we'll start again at 6:40. Let's say.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have already voted, you can take a break until 6:40.
Okay.
But yeah, you can either keep the meeting open or you can join again, whatever. Is anyone having problem with the process? Have you managed?
I voted already.
The rest of you? Okay. Or you are in a break. You are not here. You have muted your microphone. Can you say if you are here? Can you say if you voted? Only Ahmad said.
I voted.
I voted.
Can you say your name also, because we cannot how to know who said. Say
sorry,
Anna.
And I voted.
My
yeah,
name,
you can say your name first.
I voted.
Yeah.
Philippa, yeah, I voted.
Revati, I voted.
Yu-Ting voted.
Georgina Kate voted.
Everyone except myself.
Isabel voted.
And I also voted. And I think Danni also voted.
Eleanor's voted.
And I think it's time now. So now the voting is closing. The results will be announced later. We can resume the presentations.
Okay, shall we start again?
Okay.
Sure, welcome back. In the next group, we have 5 presenters, and they all from the Department of Education, Practice, and Society. And they are, did I bring my camera? Oh, yes. They are Isabel Kampner, Georgina Kate Adams, Booth, and Rivasi Rimanen, and Philippa MacDonald. And the first presenter is Isabel Kampner. And Isabel is pursuing an MA in comparative education. After graduating from the University of Oxford with an BA in philosophy and French, she pursued a career in teaching. Isabel's interest in how education is used to develop children's identities. As democratic citizen led her to her current research project. She is now investigating how differential access to pupil councils at school may be exacerbating political inequalities in wider society. Okay, Isabel, can start your presentation.
Your microphone, Isabel, your microphone is muted.
Hi, I'm just trying to share my screen as well. You can't see it, can you? Or can you?
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, you can. And it's the slideshow?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. So yeah, I'm Isabel Kempner. I'm at the Institute of Education, and my project is titled School Councils, Democratic Forums or Exclusive Clubs. So by way of introduction, I'd just like to make the connection a bit between democracy and education. Youth involvement in politics is considered to be a top priority by the European Union, and that's led to the development of European Youth Goal number 9, which is to promote space and participation for all. And the wording for all really implies a concern with equality between different groups in politics. Now, student councils in schools are democratic forums. I call them school councils, pupil councils, student councils, and they are thought to address this goal in 2 distinct ways. The pedagogical justification thinks of pupils at school as future citizens and thinks about school councils as giving them the skills they need to participate in future life. The normative justification, on the other hand, considers children as citizens now and sees school councils as a way of promoting space and participation for all as citizens in school. So the study is exploratory and descriptive in that it's finding factors that determine access to student councils. So my research framework, I'm interrogating access at 3 levels. So I'm asking, do people in different countries, schools, and with certain socio-demographic characteristics have differential access to participation opportunities on the pupil council? It takes a developmental perspective of political engagement, which means that it considers one barrier to participation as coming from the development experiences of the child as they were growing up, and it relies on some constructivist theories of learning. It's a quantitative analysis using secondary data, and that's survey data. The survey data is from the IEA's International Civic and Citizenship Education Study, specifically the 2009 study, which is a massive survey with 38 countries involved around the world. And my study uses just a subset of those of 21 EU countries. The sampling procedure is designed to be representative of the general population, and it involves questionnaires completed by head teachers, and pupils at over 5,300 schools. And the responses from those questionnaires are stored as quantitative data. I then use the data analysis tool SPSS to analyze the data, again, interrogating the access at 3 levels. So at the country level, I look at data and the frequency of councils within those 20 countries, and also the mean proportion of schools with a council in 5 political cultures. And then I use t-tests to compare the statistical significance of the differences between those means. At the school level, I carry out a regression which shows the school characteristics that increase or decrease the likelihood of offering a pupil council. So what student population of the school is, for example, whether it's a private school or a public school. And then my main analysis is really at the individual level, where I use a 3-level linear regression model to look at the factors that determine access to pupil council. So looking at individual characteristics, such as the socioeconomic background of the child and the ethnicity of the child, for example. Some of my findings are shown in the table on the right there, and I've just highlighted a couple of the key findings. The 2 stars mean that they're very statistically significant findings and likely to represent a real pattern in the wider population. So the key findings are really that access to pupil councils is determined by socio-demographic characteristics, also by school characteristics, and to some extent by the national political culture. Specifically, pupils with higher educational aspirations, which can be seen in the table there, and higher socioeconomic status are associated with higher levels of access. So children from those backgrounds are accessing pupil councils more. They're more likely to be on the student council. Also, pupils attending schools with a high proportion of ethnic minority students are associated with lower levels of access, which is concerning. And my results lead me to conclude that uneven access is likely to exacerbate existing political inequalities, given that the patterns of access replicate the patterns of access that are found in wider society. One key limitation of the study, which is highlighted again by the R-squared value in the table, is that only a very small amount of the variance in access can be explained using my predictors. I would suggest that personality indicators might explain more of the variance. A key recommendation, I think, is that schools should work to ensure that they are not merely enhancing the voices of those who already have political skills through school councils, but rather developing all pupils' voices, no matter what their background is. Here are some key references that I've used in my presentation. The first one is just explaining my statistical analyses. The second one shows the European Youth Goals. And the last three make the connection between education and democracy and talks a bit about how schools might be tools for change in society, but how they also might exacerbate existing political inequalities through how their citizenship education is organised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. And my question is, due to the coronavirus pandemic, what are the major challenges or difficulties you encounter while doing your research project?
Luckily, not that many, because I'm using the survey data, which was published in 2009, and I was able to use statistical analysis tools from my computer at home. So actually, I think I've been quite lucky in not actually facing that many challenges in terms of my study.
You're really lucky. Yeah, you don't need to do any experimental interviews. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If there is someone who wants to ask a question to Isabel, you can just ask her directly or put your question.
There is also a hand. There is a hand button if you want to raise your hand and ask a question.
Oh. Okay. So we'll move on to the next presenter, and she is Georgina Kate Adams. And she is studying an MA in Education, Gender, and International Development. Georgina Kate holds an undergraduate degree in fashion journalism from University of the Arts London and continues to work as a journalist. She also has 8 years experience working as a consultant to NGOs focused on education and gender equality. She is also the founder of a girls' education charity, the Seed Africa. Georgina Kate's current research focuses on the role of education in fostering gender climate justice. So I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much. I'm going to just try and share my screen. Can everybody see my presentation? Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Georgina Kate Adams, and I am from University College London. And my research is about the gender considerations for education in the context of climate crisis, a study of a permaculture-inspired preschool in Eswatini. So to introduce the study, worldwide over the last couple of years, we've seen youth striking from school in protest to their education system's failure to respond to climate change. And evidence shows that women are worst affected by climatic events and the effects of environmental degradation. So if schools are to respond to the calls of the protesters and look at transforming their education system to prioritize climate change, they really need to ensure that they're focusing on achieving climate justice. And to do that, they need to understand the gendered impacts of climate change. Now, permaculture is a design tool based on the 3 ethics of earth care, people care, and fair shares, which are also characteristics of climate justice. The permaculture's application to education is very much an emerging sector, but there is already a permaculture school in existence in Eswatini. So does it understand gender? Eswatini is a highly environmentally vulnerable country. 31% of the population live without drinking water, 70% are subsistence farmers, and 78% of all of the land in Eswatini is at risk of desertification. Although 41% of households are female-headed, gender inequality is systemic. So the purpose of this research is exploratory, to identify the gendered environmental vulnerabilities that exist in Eswatini, and thus the gender considerations necessary for environmental education. So the research frameworks I used. I was guided by two key research questions. Firstly, what relationships exist between climate change, environmental vulnerability, and gendered vulnerabilities in Africa that require consideration by environmental education? And secondly, what opportunities are there for education to increase the resilience of women and girls and to reduce gender inequities in the context of climate change? I employed a critical research paradigm fundamentally informed by ecofeminism. And ecofeminism is a theory and a movement which makes explicit the links between the oppression of women and the oppression of nature in patriarchal culture. So as such, an ethical position informed by ecofeminist thought and activism is one which resists these oppressions. That's by Russell and Bell. So I used a mixture of secondary research in the form of literature review and primary research in the form of an illustrative expert interview, and I employed a qualitative approach to my research. The data collection, as I mentioned, was predominantly through the form of literature review, and this was complemented by an illustrative key respondent interview. So for the literature review, I looked at about 49 key texts, looking at both of the key research questions. And then for the qualitative interview, I interviewed one expert candidate who is the founder of Guba Farm Play School, a permaculture preschool located in Malkans in Eswatini. And yes, it was a purposive sample in as much as there is only one person running a school like this right now, as far as I'm aware. And so that interview took place through 4 virtual semi-structured personal interviews, and I've been doing the data analysis in text format. So just to give you a quick overview of the kind of structure of my literature review and how I've approached the research. Firstly, I've looked at issues of land and gender in Eswatini, then gendered issues of climate change vulnerability and adaptation in Eswatini, and also in the wider South African Development Community region. Thirdly, I've been looking at gendered issues and experiences of environmental education in Africa, and particularly in Eswatini. And finally, I've been looking at ecofeminism, particularly in relation to education. And so the structure of each literature review chapter is to look at the literature review, then the interview data, and then to apply some analysis and reflection. So the findings of my research, as much as it is still ongoing, some initial findings are that gender inequality in Eswatini, including in education, really impacts individual and collective environmental vulnerability. And so as such, schools have a really key role to play in addressing gendered vulnerabilities. The findings of the literature were very much reflected by the interview with the Eswatini Permaculture School founder. But interestingly, the school had considered most gender issues raised by the literature through adopting a permaculture approach to education. Of course, the limitation of this research is that the results only reflect the experience of one school and not all of permaculture education. And there will be further recommendations, but at the moment, a recommendation that I can make directly to the permaculture school is to identify a need to improve their monitoring of gender safeguarding. And here are my references. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Georgina. And in your presentation, you mentioned that the climate change hits women hardest, and this trend is anticipated to continue. Can you please explain why women are worst affected?
Yes, I can. If I stop sharing my screen, is that correct? Can you see me now?
No.
Oh.
You can actually, you can take a little. You can take 1 minute. You can take about 30 seconds. 1 minute to complete your.
Say that again. Sorry.
You may take 30 seconds. I think we can give 30 seconds extra time so that you complete what you are saying.
To show the final part of my presentation, was that?
Yeah, because it's abruptly.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so the recommendation I will be making to Guba Farm Play School is to improve their monitoring of gender safeguarding. So both in terms of keeping out on track of how they're doing at the school, but also when they respond to disasters such as the COVID pandemic currently and other future climate change events. And then in terms of my references, these were some of the key texts I found particularly informative. And I just really wanted to draw attention to Pilgrim and Davis at the bottom there, who looked at the application of ideas of sustainability and ecofeminism to education. But they also, as a third interest, they looked at the application of permaculture also to an ecofeminist approach to education. And I found that particularly interesting as we move forward with developing permaculture education. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Can you
okay.
see? Yeah.
Would you like me to repeat the question or?
So I believe you asked me in what ways women are more affected by
by
climate change. So there is a huge range, but to sum it up, because of women's marginalized place in, I would argue, in most societies, but particularly in Eswatini, where they are very much treated as second-class citizens. That means that women have less access to resources and thus less adaptive capability when it comes to needing to respond to climate change events. So there's actually evidence, I mean, thinking about big climate change events that we know about, like Hurricane Katrina, the evidence shows that women had less capability to respond, to get out. So there's so many ways. I mean, I can go into more detail if you like, but there's so many ways. But fundamentally, gender inequality has such a direct relationship with climate change. And really, we can't tackle climate change without tackling gender inequality, because you need to tackle gender inequality if we're going to achieve gender climate justice.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, I forgot to open my camera. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome our next presenter, Eleanor Booth. And Eleanor is studying an MA Education, Health, Promotion and International Development, and holds an MA Geography from the University of Cambridge. Professionally, she works for 2 charities in Uganda and as a content creator in the UK. Her current interests are around the unjust balance of power, whether between genders, races, countries, academic research, or leadership, and how this interrelates with health, education, place, diplomacy, or climate change. Okay. So, Eleanor, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yeah. I'm just, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. It's very clear.
And can you see the slides?
No, I can't see it. Did you click the button to share the screen with us?
Yeah, but okay, sorry, give me 1 second.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize there were more buttons to press. Okay. Okay, can you see slides now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So welcome. I'm Eleanor Booth from UCL, and this is a participatory exploration of how studying at a London university influences African alumni well-being. So regarding background and rationale, African alumni have raised that studying abroad has both positive and negative influences on their well-being. Now, this despite in the literature, African alumni are presented as international scholarship recipients with this overwhelmingly positive experience, kind of mirroring that white saviour discourse we see in international development. International education is not treated as a health promotion issue. This is despite education, international travel, and exposure to global relations, all key social determinants of well-being. Traditional research practices dominate in this field, and these place the alumni within this dynamic where providing data to the academic. And societal constraints further reduce the power of African alumni along race, global inequality, and in some cases, gender lines. So international education for developing countries is really crucial to the sustainable development goals. For this study, it's relevant for 3 with health and well-being, 4 in terms of access to tertiary education and international scholarships, and 17 in terms of partnerships with developing countries and also capacity building, both essential for participatory research. So the purpose is a small-scale exploratory study to work with African alumni to explore how studying at London University influenced their well-being and to trial a virtual participatory research approach. So in terms of the research framework, for ethical reasons, the university has to stay anonymous, so I used London University. So bearing that in mind with the key research questions, 1 is around how the studying at the London University influenced African alumni's perceived well-being, and 2 is around reflections on the actual use of that participatory health promotion approach. So with my conceptual framework, it's providing this reflexivity to health promotion, and health promotion provides this activity to post-colonialism. So I'm using a critical methodology, virtual participatory health promotion, and its primary qualitative data collection. So regarding that potential data collection, I've used proposed sampling together for MA alumni using Facebook groups and contacts. Now, the data collection is based around 3 focus groups using Skype. So in focus group 1, there are introductions where the alumni have the power over the demographic information that they share. We then discuss the study, drawing in that pre-project involvement. We define well-being using ranking and White 2009, which is respecting the alumni's ability to work with theoretical knowledge and therefore overcoming one of the key critiques of participatory research. And then we have training. And you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side, it then goes to adapted photo voice. So the literature suggests that many creative methods have similar advantages. So therefore, in order to overcome potential limitations from the pandemic lockdowns, the participants may upload 5 photos or upload songs or drawings or essays to answer how does studying at the London University influence your life. These are analysed then in focus group 2, and then these are used along with River of Life, which is where they draw a course for River and pinpoint key points in their life history and their previous comments to structure the semi-structured interviews. Finally, we have focus group 3, where we discuss the emerging findings, we plan action, and we evaluate the participatory method. In terms of data analysis, we use thematic analysis, bearing the critical methodology and conceptual framework in mind. So you can see from the slide in blue that the alumni are actually involved in many stages of this analysis. So firstly, the alumni's well-being definition is compared to White 2009, and this is used to thematically analyse the literature review, drawing their voice through a section they might be less involved in. The alumni then thematically analyse the photo voice in focus group 2 and the live interviews. I thematicalise all the data collection using Miles et al.'s coding method, which is being commended for pulling the participant's voice out. And then the emerging findings are discussed in focus group 3 and changes made as appropriate. So regarding the possible findings, for research question 1, the literature suggests there is a global pattern of this new transnational outlook and identity. However, the alumni have also raised there are positive and negative elements, and there is this importance of context that is starting to come out. In terms of research question 2, it's participatory to a point. So there are academic constraints, there are likely to be some limitations, and that's in addition to the small sample size. In terms of implications, these are likely to be discussed and come out of the focus group 3 and discussions from that. But one may be the alumni recommending more university support. And also there's the implication that if the research approach works for master's students, it might be more recommended in the future. So thank you very much for listening. And sorry, these are my references. And I've also included 2 background. One's a tracer study for African students previously, and one is background of participatory research by an author that actually respects there's a wide range of history that's sometimes not taught. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Eleanor. And I'm really interested in a research material you just mentioned, the photo voice River of Life. And why did you choose to use it?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, oh, of course. And I'm not an expert in your research field, and you just mentioned a very interesting material. It's a photo voice river of life. Why do you choose this one to use as a material?
So firstly, with photo voice, so it allows the whole voice of the participant to be put forward by them. So they are defining exactly what they're showing, and it's much stronger than just words. And there's also many hidden meanings in photos as well. And it's a way of, they have to then discuss what the photos show and analyze them and draw out those key themes. And River of Life is a way within the interviews, it means they've spent time to reflect upon their life history, and they visualize when the good points and the bad points are. So actually studying abroad might be a good point, or it might be a bad point. Some have raised being away from family was awful, for example. So, and then this means that they have greater power within those interviews, because it's actually being defined by something they prepared beforehand, rather than me coming up with questions beforehand. So it's basically providing them with the power, which is
sounds
my
really
goal.
interesting.
Thank
you so much. Okay, let's move on to the next presentation, and our presenter is Ravasi Rahmanan, and she is pursuing her MA in Education and International Development. Ravasi holds a bachelor's degree in Computer Science and Engineering and a master's degree in Journalism. She has been working with an NGO called Teach for India, which works towards bridging the educational equality in India. She has also been a teacher coach, and a journalist. She is interested in the impact of strong teacher networks and a supportive school environment on teachers' well-being and student achievement. Okay, so I'll now hand over to Ravasi.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. And then...
Thank you so much for listening and waiting for all these presenters giving presentation. And I know it's pretty late in India.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you can see.
Okay, perfect.
Can you tell us what time is there?
It's 11:30 in the night.
Okay, so we're doing midnight presentation now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, can I start?
Yes, please.
Great. Hi. Hi, my name is Marybeth Martin, and I'm doing my master's in Education and International Development at UCL. And I want to talk to you today about my study, which is the role of teacher networks and social support groups in school in promoting teacher well-being in rural India.
Excuse me, Ravasi.
Yeah.
Do you have your camera on?
Yes, I have a camera on now.
Because I cannot see you. Danni, can you see the camera?
Yes, sure.
It is not here. It's not showing. But anyway, let's carry on.
Okay, great. So I think with the number of school-going children increase. Sorry.
It's okay now. It's okay now. It's okay.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start now. Yeah. Great. Yes. With the number of school-going children increasing across the world, teachers are becoming more and more critical to achieving education for all. However, globally, there's a huge shortage of teachers, and even teachers in the system are dropping out in the early years of teaching because of stress, burnout, and hostile cultures at school. While research on teacher well-being has generated interest globally, the research on teacher well-being in the global South and South Asia hasn't picked up pace, and there's no research done on the subject in rural India. The purpose of this research is causal, to understand if there's a relationship between teacher networks and teacher well-being. Coming to the research framework, there are two main research questions that I wanted to explore through this study. First, what does well-being mean to teachers in rural India? And second, what is the perceived role that networks and having social support groups in school play in ensuring and promoting teacher well-being? The research paradigm is subjectivist and constructivist in nature, and I used a mixed methods design to explore the phenomenon of teacher well-being. In the data collection phase, my sample size consisted of 10 teachers across 3 schools in rural Tamil Nadu, and they were sampled purposively. 2 data collection methods were used. First, I sent a questionnaire on well-being to 10 teachers to understand the state of well-being. After analyzing the questionnaire, I did one-on-one interviews with the teachers to understand the role that networks and support groups in school play in their well-being. All of the data was in text format. In the analysis phase, I've used thematic analysis to analyze the questionnaire responses and the interview responses. The themes for the analysis, as you can see, were drawn from the theoretical framework of well-being by Martin Seligman, which speaks about 5 aspects of well-being. I also use critical discourse analysis to analyze the responses given by the teachers in the interview to draw insights. The insights that I derived from the analysis of the questionnaire were used to inform the questions in my interview to draw deeper insights on teacher well-being. Coming to the findings, as you can observe from the graph, in terms of engagement, achievement, and finding meaning and purpose in their work, the teachers scored pretty high, but they scored low on feeling positive emotions while in school and having strong relationships at work. The second finding was that the teachers actually appreciated networks and support groups, and they found it beneficial, and they felt that structures in school for teachers to talk and share were necessary to promote well-being, and they felt that these structures did not exist. One of the biggest limitations of the study was the fact that it took place during the COVID-19 pandemic, and hence I could not do the focus group discussions with the teachers that I had originally planned for, which I think would have given me deeper insights into this particular research question. An important recommendation that I have is to have space in school and to encourage networks and social support groups for teachers to help promote teacher well-being and improve teacher satisfaction and teacher retention. I think some of the important references I've used are the theoretical framework for well-being by Martin Seligman and a book on social network theory for educational change by Alan Danni. These books really helped me understand the role that networks and relationships play in teacher well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, my question is, have you considered the impact of individual differences? I mean, for teachers living in the capital city, maybe their level of well-being will be higher than the teacher who live in the rural place.
Absolutely. I think one of the main reasons that I wanted to sort of do this, position the study in rural India was that the challenges that teachers in urban India and rural India face are very, very different. Like in rural India, teachers have to travel long distances. Sometimes they have to walk for kilometers to reach their school. Their salary gets delayed by many months. I think all of this I've sort of included in my literature review, where I've sort of mentioned what are the main sort of challenges that teachers in rural India face and how it's different from what teachers in urban India face. I think that's a great question because I think one of the reasons that the study was, I wanted to do was rural India has largely been very ignored. And there's hardly any study, even around just teacher development or teacher sort of motivation in rural India, let alone teacher well-being, right? So I think I've included all of those differences in the literature review, and I've spoken a little bit about it in my findings section as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you. Our next presenter is Philippa McDonald, and she is a secondary school English teacher who has worked for the last 10 years in an international school in Istanbul. She holds a BA degree in English language and literature from UCL and a PGCE from Goldsmiths College, London. Her interest in international development began when she volunteered for an NGO in China, which worked with state orphanages. Her MA in Education and International Development at UCL-IOE is providing her with the opportunity to develop interest into the particular challenges facing minority group refugees as they try to access education in Turkey. So, Philippa, you can start your presentation.
Okay.
Do you know how to share the screen?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yes.
Coming. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. There we go.
Fine.
Okay. Hope everybody's hanging in there. We're nearly at the end of the evening. Thanks for listening at this late time. So my name's Philippa. I'm from UCL, Institute of Education. And I want to just share with you some of my research, which is about the challenges of accessing primary education for minority Roma children from Dom and Abdal settled and refugee communities in Turkey. Okay, first of all, you might be wondering, well, who are the Dom and the Abdal? They're actually minorities within a larger Roma minority in Turkey. They are from settled communities there's been settled communities of Roma people present since the Byzantine times. They're currently Turkish citizens, and so they have rights to education and everything else as citizens. The Dom and Abdal are also part of the big refugee flows that came from Syria starting in roughly around 2011. They are minorities because the Syrian refugees are not a homogenous group, so they came over with the majority group. So the research is exploratory, it's descriptive, and to try and find reasons why Dom and Abdal children often are not accessing school at all, or they're dropping out early. Okay, my research framework. So I originally planned to do a small scale case study of a refugee education centre in Gaziantep, which is 30 miles north of the Syrian border, and interview refugee parents, but obviously that wasn't possible. And it was really then that I found out that there were these different ethnic minority refugees. So my two main adapted research questions were, how are the educational challenges affecting Dom and Abdal children framed in Turkish news articles between 2018 and 2020? And also how these challenges defined by expert informants working in the field. So the nature of my research is very qualitative, social constructionist. I had primary data, which is text, recorded interviews and video. And my conceptual framework was Bourdieu's habitus and social reproduction. So my data collection, I had 16 Turkish newspaper articles. I had 4 semi-structured qualitative interviews on WhatsApp and Zoom, because obviously with COVID-19, I couldn't do it face-to-face. Then 3 YouTube interviews with a head of a Roma rights activist group, who actually I had been able to interview myself on WhatsApp. My sampling methods for the news articles, progressive theoretical sampling, and for the interviews, it was voluntary participation based on those connections that I'd made in Gaziantep. Okay, so for analysis, again, I brought together the newspaper data and the interview data to try and find a way to show the actual specific challenges for the Dom and Abdal refugees, because there's really not much written on them in particular. So as I did this, I used thematic document analysis for the newspaper articles. I created protocols. So I just gave you an example of like a top layer of one of my charts that I created, just so you could see the headings, which I used to compare and contrast the different articles. I also used thematic content analysis for the interview, so transcription, translation, and coding. So mind maps to see pictures and new connections and patterns in the data. Okay, my findings. So what I found was that these challenges that these Roma minority groups are facing could be described as exclusionary processes. So I'll just pick out 2 findings. So I would say, first of all, from the newspaper data, that actually their particular challenges for these Dom and Abdal minority groups are actually completely excluded from national media discourses. So I found that when I entered in Abdal education into the Turkish Google, nothing came up. So I actually had to add in terms like gypsy in Turkish, which obviously shows the way these groups are thought of, using that discriminatory term, but that was what I had to do to get some data. I would say from the interviews, a really interesting thing that came out from the interviews was that these Roma minority groups are facing a kind of double discrimination, because they're both from a Roma background and they're also refugees. And what I found was several of the interview participants said that when these groups are coming over from Syria and arriving in the refugee camps in the east of Turkey, they were being excluded from the camps. So your majority Arab groups did not want Roma minority Abdal and Dom groups being in the same camp as them. So that then obviously really affected access to schools because there was schooling in the camps. My main limitation, I would say, is I was working mostly in Turkish. So 3 out of 4 of my interviews were in Turkish. I'm not a native speaker of Turkish, although I've lived there 10 years. So I'm sure that was a limitation on what I could understand. My main recommendation would be multicultural teacher training is absolutely essential. I think in my findings, I found that the state education system is very monocultural, it's very monolingual, so diversity is really needed. References, just to draw your attention to the last one from Yildiz. She's a Kurdish Turkish academic who's working in this field. Actually, she's about one of the only reports I could find that was specifically addressing these minority Dom and Abdal groups challenges, not just in education, but generally. So her report was really, really helpful. Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Philippa. And you just mentioned the Roma minority groups settled and refugee are excluded from national media discourses, and you use the material you used, the text you used to analyze is newspaper. And have you considered using the spoken discourse such as television programs and other, media posts on the social media?
I could have done, but I chose to use newspaper discourses. The main reason being was that I could get a really wide variety of different opinions. I particularly contrasted national and local newspaper outlets. There seemed to be quite a difference between them. So yeah, maybe for another research project I could do that. So
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm trying to work out how to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing?
Click the same button.
Oh. Okay, back to that. Sorry about this. I can't.
It's fine.
It keeps going back. It's still there, isn't it? I can't seem to get rid of it. So I'm clicking on the share button, and then there doesn't seem to be an option for stopping.
I think I found I had to press the button where you move the slides back and forth. I think there's a button next to that that says stop presenting or something.
Okay. Stop presenting. Got it. Okay.
Okay. So today's last presenter is Danni Shi Patel from the Department of Psychology and Human Development. Danni Shi has completed her MSc in Psychology of Education, and she is currently working as a workplace consultant at CBRE. Her research interests are on global education and internationality. Her research focuses on how to further develop global education by exploring the lived experiences of adults who had cross-cultural upbringings. The study uses intersectionality as a framework to address the complexities of multiple factors each of us have to face, especially race, class, and skin color. Okay, Danni Shi, you can continue.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
It's okay.
Great. So, hi guys. My name is Danni Shi Patel from UCL IOE, and today I'll be talking about my research, which is called Uncovering the Knowledge Box. It's about exploring adult cross-cultural kids' perspectives of education to develop global education. So just a brief introduction into why I've done my study. It was an exploratory research for global education to answer why it's needed to change education right now. So just a brief history and story to it. The world is increasingly becoming more globalized, indicated by a growing number of expatriates, which leads to an increase in cross-cultural kids. Adult cross-cultural kids or cross-cultural kids is a person who is living, has lived in, or meaningfully interacted with 2 or more cultural environments for a significant period of time during their first 18 years. Currently, most students jump from school into the world without having sufficient knowledge to understand it. Education is facing challenges to prepare students for an increasingly globalized world, as students need to develop new skills, knowledge, values, morals, and competencies which are different to prior generations. Education systems need to change their efforts to educate individuals to encompass global perspectives, as education is molding our future leaders. Global education may be one of the key answers to the challenges of globalization. The problem faced by schools is having no coherent understanding of globalization, of global citizenship, nor how to educate global citizens, and little guidance on how to implement internationalist ideals. Consequently, ACCK can retrospectively offer insight that is important for developing global education. So my research framework. My research question was, what can we learn from exploring education and lived experiences of ACCKs to develop global education? Life history interview methodology was used to understand the positive and negative influences individuals have faced within education. The theoretical framework that I used was intersectionality. My research approach was qualitative, my research type was primary, and my research paradigm was participatory. So moving on to my data collection, the population that I used were ACCKs from various racial and geographical backgrounds, as you can see in the table below. They have been in 2 or more education systems throughout their developmental years and experienced 2 or more cultures, as well as finished secondary school in the past 5 years. The sampling strategy I used was opportunity sampling and had 4 samples, so therefore 4 participants. The data format that I used were audio recordings that were transcribed. The data collection method that I used was one unstructured interviews, which used prompts, as well as participant report readings. The data analysis method that I used was thematic analysis, and the process was that participants explored education, sociocultural differences, and inequalities within their history through an inquiry-based method. Participant reports were created and corroborated by the participant to ensure a true depiction of their story and themes. Through the analysis, there was an underlying intersectionality of race, skin color, and class throughout the participants' education and lived experiences. As you can see in the graphic above, that's kind of how it all conceptualized. Finally, moving on to my findings. The first finding that I found was every participant in the study described cultural inequality and bias within the curricula, teaching methods, and education workforce. The second was that the main emergent themes were school culture and workforce, as well as representation within education and media. There was a lack of diversity for ethnicity, gender, and skin color, as 3 participants were Caucasian, male, and white. Having said that, it still shows the need for change because of how everything has come about. And this study further expresses the need for systemic, institutional, and social change globally. These are just a couple of quotes from my participants. One is on cultural bias, remarking the whitewashing of education. Cultural inequality, which shows the perpetuation of racism and colorism within a hierarchy. And also the lack of a negative representation, what we don't see also affects us. And lastly, for global education, they all presented their own ideals and showed that there is a need for it. And finally, this study is just the beginning. The study highlights the work that needs to be done, and it's just a start towards a better future, a global future. These are the references I used.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And my question is, and the last question, and I am really interested in the methodology you used, and it's called Good Sense Life History Interview methodology. And can you tell us more about this type of method?
Yeah, so just a little background as to why I used it is because I myself am an ACCK, so I found it really interesting how my education came about, the need for relearning, unlearning, and learning again and over again. So instead of putting myself into the research, I wanted to make sure I was credible. So I used the methodology, which is Life History Interview by Ivor Goodson. And essentially that allows me to take myself out of it, and the participants themselves get to explore their own story. So asking them for their history, asking them about their education, you pick up themes and highlights, and I just kind of went with it. It was more of a conversation, and it's basically them telling a story and me trying to probe into it. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you. It sounds a bit like a river of life.
Yeah, that's why I was hearing everyone just like, I can pull all of this into my research. Everything just connects right here. So I think that's really important to know. Thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you everyone for participating in today's competition. And now it's time for you to vote again for 3 finalists in this group. And you can do the same by going to the website of Slido and enter the event code IDSP and vote for the top 3 presenters.
Can you see the new vote post? So we are giving 3 minutes from now. We have Danni, you can share your screen.
Sure.
But unless you want to vote first, or so this is the new. So if you are here, if it says Q&A, go to poll. Actually, if you are already on the page, you don't even need to do it again. If you have it already open, you don't need to do it again. You can just, it will appear automatically here. So now we have, as you see, we have 6 options in this poll, and you are choosing 3. Danni, have you voted? If you have not voted, you can.
Yes, I can vote using my mobile phone.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm sharing my slides. Not slides. Web page. Okay, shall we also take a 5 minutes break?
I think we don't need a 5 minutes break.
Okay, sure.
Or what? I think the schedule. What is the schedule now? It says until 7:40. So we can go until 7:40.
Yeah.
Break.
Yeah. We'll start again at.
So the meeting can stay on because it is recorded, but the participants can either leave the meeting for a while and come back, or they can stay in the meeting and just do something, go somewhere if they want to go, or to rest and come back. So the vote is now closing. And so that we can get the results.
Okay, let's start again. Is everyone back?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So Alexandros now have the name of the 6 finalists. And Alexandros, would you like to announce the name of these finalists?
Just a moment.
Okay.
Just a moment. You can continue the discussion for a while.
Yeah, since we have some time, is there anyone who wants to ask anyone, any presenter, a question? So this is the time.
Okay, I can now announce the names. Can you hear me? Is it
Yes.
okay? So I'm going to say the names, and then we can display the results. So from the first selection, groups A and D. Marybeth 10, 1. Marybeth, are you here?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You are now the finalist. Number 2, Tianxin, 14 votes. Tianxin,
Hi.
congratulations.
Thank you.
You're a finalist now. And number 3, Yu-Ting. Yu-Ting,
Hello.
congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Now from the second selection. Actually, yes. So second selection, groups E and F. Number 1, Danista 14. Danista,
Oh, thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Number 2, Georgina 9 votes. Georgina,
Hi, thank you so much.
congratulations. And number 3, Eleanor 7. Eleanor,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
congratulations. We're going to display the results just for clarity. So if you go to the site, you can see now the results of the first group. Can you show the results done by sharing the screen?
Yes. And
it's not showing. Just a moment. I may get something so wrong. What about now?
no.
Actually, we
Not
cannot
there.
see the result. We cannot see the results because of you should be able to see the results. Can you see the results? It just shows the vote. It just shows the vote. I can then take a screenshot in that case. Or I can find it. Yes, so can I share my screen? Can you see the results? Can you see the result now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. We have Marybeth, Tianxin, and Yu-Ting. And from group 2, now group 2. Let me stop sharing this. That's can you see the results now? From group 2.
Yes.
As you can see, we have actually the last one is not appearing. We have Danni Shi at the bottom, Georgina, and Elena. So we can carry on now with the 6 finalists for the elevator. I'm also sending a message. Yes, of course. As we said, this doesn't mean anything for those that did not make it. And please keep participating in the meeting. So we're expecting you to still continue as we go on, so that we show our collaborative spirit and community spirit. So these names now can go into the next phase. Danni?
Yes. Yes.
Can you continue?
Yes, sure. So this is a list of the final 6 presenters, and now you have to vote for the last time to choose 3 winners, right?
We have the elevator pitches now. We're inviting each of them to give the elevator pitch.
Oh, right.
If you, in the chat, I'm writing the order in the chat. If you check the chat, it shows you which order should be followed.
So now is the time for these 6 finalists to give a 1-minute elevator speech, respectively. And using this 1 minute, you can address why your research is worth funding. And we'll start with Marybeth.
Okay. Thank you so much again, Danni, and to everyone. So the reason why I believe that bilingualism is so worthy of funding is that previous research has shown that this actually has potentially therapeutic benefits, managing and living with multiple languages. We know that it can be a very marketable skill. It can help us interact with a broader range of people. But my interest lies in how can this help people who are suffering from cognitive decline, so aging populations, and especially I'm interested in neurological conditions where they have done some preliminary research within multiple sclerosis patients, and they have done studies where they have actually taken on language courses and shown some improvement in certain cognitive functions. So it's very emerging research, very new, but this is why I believe strongly in funding for bilingualism beyond education, because it does transcend into other fields such as healthcare and the ability to reduce those costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Marybeth. And now, Tianxin.
Okay.
Hi, Tianxin, are you there?
Yeah. I am. Can you see my slide?
Maybe it's coming.
Tianxin,
see it now.
Tianxin, what
can you see
time
my
is
slides
there?
now?
Tianxin,
It's like
what
it's
is it?
3 a.m.
3 a.m.
Yes. So why should we find this project of anti-racism? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so you see that your resilience is bringing fruit. So you're making it into the final group at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, sorry, I missed a bit about what you said just now. Like,
I just said
it's
that
really
by
worth
staying,
it. Like,
yeah, so it's worth staying up at 3 o'clock.
yeah, definitely. Like, I enjoyed all the presentations, and even though it's 3 a.m. and I get an opportunity to elaborate on my dissertation further. So, let's go to the funding part. So why should this project be funded? First of all, I think that as China is deepening its cooperation with African countries, it is actually gradually becoming an important destination of African diaspora. And considering the potential of social media hostility in triggering real-life violence, this expanding racist community may negatively affect the well-being of more and more African people. And additionally, considering the current BLM activity, although the death of George Floyd has been calling attention to the well-being of Africans all over the world, research that deals with racial discourse in non-English words, for example, in the Chinese context, is very limited, which leaves a large group of Africans silenced and ignored. And finally, the study suggested possible solutions to the identified problems, underlining the necessity and the potential of first, public education, and second, reasonable censorship in the reduction of Afrophobia and racism on Chinese social media. And that's all about it. Thank you.
Have you actually shared your screen, or you did it without sharing?
Pardon?
Have you shared your screen? Because it seems that we have not seen your slide.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, this is can you see it right now?
I think it's fine. No worries. Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we move on to the next presenter, Yu-Ting?
Yes, just let me try to share my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you? Okay, great. So there are 3 reasons why you should fund this project. Reason number 1, it reveals the difficulties encountered during local implementation of an autonomy-oriented curriculum. And this was rarely discussed in the past and can be considered for future policy making. It's not only applicable in the Taiwanese context, but it's also applicable globally, since many of the difficulties identified in this research are in line with past research. And the second reason is that it also identifies some minority groups that might have challenges assessing this autonomy-oriented curriculum. Because we all know that behind a very promising curriculum, there is always a group that is suffering and not catching up with the new curriculum. And my final reason is that because it also suggests very helpful measures, such as building up a very supportive system, engaging teachers, administrators, and parents to make learner autonomy promotion feasible across a more diverse student population and institution. And this is relatable and important because as educators, parents, and possibly future parents, we would always want our kids to be raised in an autonomy supportive learning environment. Yes, so these are the 3 reasons why you should fund this project, as it makes contribution to learner autonomy promotion, as it makes contribution to our education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yu-Ting. And the next is Danni Shi.
Hello, I'm just gonna share my screen. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so just to put this in the wider context, we're seeing so much inequality in the world today. We're seeing the the bipartisan of everything. And I think it's important to realize that we're all global. So the importance of the study is that it understands the underlying school learning culture that lends an opportunity for change directed towards a goal for global education. Notwithstanding the relatively limited sample, the study offers valuable insight to develop global education. Furthermore, the benefit of the study is that it increasing in diversity and intercultural competence within the school workforce at every level is a dire need for the global world. The findings suggest for transformation of educational systems with a focus on the equality of race, skin color, and class. This is a quote from one of my participants. "There's no change, there's no diversity, you're oppressing knowledge. There's just a limited knowledge box and you just move in that." I think this echoes everything that we're trying to do. Before we can achieve equality, we need to address the inequality, inequity, injustice that persists. This study starts to highlight the need for change and where to begin. Diversity needs to be embedded within the curricula from the educators to the perspectives that are presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next presenter is Georgina.
Hi, let me just see if I can share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Brilliant. So the reason for funding this research is that, firstly, it is the first study of its kind to investigate gendered implications of climate change in Eswatini, and particularly the contribution of education. And despite the focus on Eswatini, it really does build the research base for understanding and addressing gender climate justice through education in other contexts as well. Unlike some studies that does look at a problem, this study is really solutions focused and pioneers research on permaculture education, particularly in the Eswatini context. Finally, this study has implications that spread far beyond the education sector. It demonstrates the importance of gender equality for climate change resilience overall, not just through education. And as such, it raises the agenda for gender equality in Eswatini at large. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last one, last presenter is Eleanor.
Hi, can you see that? Yeah. So we need to fund this project. Hello, can you hear me? No.
Do you have your camera on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Oh, sorry.
We can't see the camera.
You can't see me though. Yeah, so can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see it? See the slides?
Yes.
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay, thank you. So the reasons to fund this project is African alumni have a limited presence in the literature, and when they're talked about it as international scholarship recipients. So this means that they have a lack of agency and a lack of voice, which reduces their ability to make change. Now, greater understanding is needed for effective scholarships, for programme development in terms of degree and support services, and more equitable relationships. By using participatory research, it could be capacity building, important to SDG 17, provides greater insight for validity, reduce power inequalities, and linked to direct actions. This research actually has a great utility as an approach. Now, participatory research can be difficult within a master's time frame, and research abroad can be accessible to those field researchers, poorer researchers, or those with moral reasons, whether environmental or post-colonial, for example. So by trialling this innovative and participatory approach, it's making it more accessible to different researchers around the world, therefore promoting the prospect of better well-being for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. And now we are supposed to vote again to choose the three winners, right?
For the last time, and is the major vote now.
Yes.
Can you see the options? We have already have Voted. 5. So we have now 6 out, and we are choosing 3. It's a hard choice now. And we have 3 minutes until 8:05. If you voted until you can take a break until 8:05. Danni, can you see this?
Yes, I can see a finalist.
Is it reading the right way or is it reading backwards?
It's not backwards, it's the right way.
Right way.
Yeah.
So this could be the award for the finalists.
Okay.
And this is for the medalists.
Wow.
So we can ask them to come on the screen so that they are receiving the medal.
Alexandros, can you please announce the winners when you are ready?
So it's time to close the vote. And announce the medalists. So this announcement is just 3. The previous was 6. So now we're announcing bronze, silver, and gold medals. So I'm going I'm going to announce the names starting from the bronze. And when after the announcement, you are expected to give a 1 minute or even a little more to say your experience from this competition, and if you want to thank anyone that helped you as a gratitude, to express your gratitude. So, are you ready? Can you write in the chat if you are ready? The 6 finalists. Can you write ready in the chat? Leonor, ready. Georgina, ready. Danni is ready. Marybeth, ready. We are missing. Tianxin, maybe Tianxin went to sleep. Could not stay anymore. Yu-Ting?
Yes, I'm ready.
Tianxin?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So, this announcement, we can make this announcement a little more expectation, with more expectation. So, our bronze medalist from the Department of CCM. Marybeth. Marybeth?
Hi.
So, on behalf of IDSP, you are awarded the bronze medal.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You can now give your 1 minute.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. It's been really enjoyable experience. With my line of research, I feel like it's very singular. It's very, you deal a lot with numbers and experimental kind of testing. And it was really exciting hearing about all of the different types of research, especially qualitative research, that I do very little of. And so it was really exciting to learn about your different studies. So I appreciated all of you for presenting. And of course, I'd like to thank my supervisor who couldn't make it today, but Frozo Argui, who is supervising my dissertation, and she is currently researching bilingualism in children, and doing all sorts of really interesting work with neuroimaging studies in children. So I recommend everyone go look at her work because it's really, really fascinating. And so that's it. Thank you.
If you rated our project, our competition out of 5, what would you give?
The competition, I would definitely give it like a 4 out of 5. Yeah, 4 out of 5.
And the reason?
It was, I think maybe it was just challenging doing it online. Just trying to, but in the same time, it's quite helpful in that you're, I guess, forced to use different platforms that you're not used to using. So I think the stress and the uncertainty around recording on a different platform was a bit unnerving at first. But, in the long run, it's probably for the best, because you're kind of pushed out of your comfort zone and forced to learn different tools. So it was a bit challenging and a bit stressful, but at the same time, best, I think, probably in the long run.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now our silver medalist. from the same department, Tianxin. Tianxin?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you.
On behalf
Thank
of
you so
IDSP,
much.
you are awarded the
That's
Silver
beautiful.
Medalist Award for 2020.
Okay.
So, IDSP
Yeah, I'm so
Graduate
honored.
Dissertation of the Year, #2, second place.
Thank you.
Can-
Thank you so much. I mean, although it's like 3 a.m. and I'm still very excited. So, so the speech, okay. So I'm really, really thankful and excited that I am that I receive your support and encouragement, and it's really a huge encouragement for me, because at the beginning I thought my research is not that mature in comparison with many of your wonderful research, but your interest in this topic really encouraged me, and I am definitely going to carry this forward. I'm also very grateful that I'm given the opportunity to articulate and elaborate, especially on my dissertation. And I really, really learned a lot in participating IDSP. And thank you, Alexandros, for giving me all the timely feedbacks and instructions. I know I didn't follow up all the instructions at the first step, and you really provided help to to improve my slides and the reports. And also, I really enjoyed the whole process, like Georgiana, your presentation about your presentation about the not your presentation. I mean, what you provided with the very informative point about the racism and the African-China relationship is really informative, and I'm thinking of adding it into my own dissertation. And of course, Marybeth, your language and aptitude research is very insightful, and I would like to discuss more about that topic with you. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
So if you could rating our project out of 5, what would you give?
You mean my experience? I think 8 out of 10, because I'm right now in China, and there's this different time zone, and I can really I often I cannot catch up with all the updates very in time. So and it is also a challenge for me to revise and to rewrite some part of my dissertation according to everybody's feedback. Because, for example, the findings, actually I changed it once and once again because I find it not that logic at the beginning. So it's challenging and really fruitful.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the great announcement. So we have Yu-Ting, Georgina, Eleanor, and Danni Shi, four candidates that are eligible. So the IDSP dissertation postgraduate thought, the IDSP postgraduate thought dissertation of the year 2020 goes to Danni Shi. Congratulations, Danni Shi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We are all ears.
This is really unexpected. Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. It has really been awe-inspiring being a part of this, and especially coming in at the end, it's so overwhelming. But I think this topic just speaks for itself. I think we all are people in this world. We all need education, and I think the way that education is presented is it's a bit sad sometimes to realize after going to university that you have to unlearn what you learned in school, and I've traveled around the world, lived in so many different continents. It hurts to see that education isn't like shown as what it can be, and I think this study really helps to start engineering that change. So I really, really appreciate this, and so thank you so much for everyone who's listened and participating in this conference or competition. But a really big shout out to my professor, Dr. Zachary Walker, who really mentored me and showed me the ropes for this. If it weren't for him, I honestly wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have survived what is a really tough master's program. So thank you. And I have learned so much. And I think more than anything, the research work pulls in from every different part of all the other research work that everyone's spoken about today, including the anti-racist work from, in China about Afrophobia and everything else. I think it all ties in. So I really look forward to collaborating with everyone on here if possible. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
And your rating for our project, for our competition?
Out
of 5?
Okay, I think definitely 4 out of 5. You get to meet so many different people, and it's just incredible to see this different types of studies. I think just the communication and everything, it's a bit hard, especially if you're working and stuff like that, to just jump on and jump off. But overall, it was such a great experience, and just to see the breadth of people here from all over the world, and when I'm talking about global education, to see about global people is really, really inspiring. So.
And do you have a suggestion for our next year competition?
I think a timeline would be better. Having a timeline of this is what is expected, and especially I know this is a virtual format. This is the first time it was being done, and I think that kind of hinders it. But having a format from before, being these are the 3 tasks that you'll have beforehand, and this is the date when all of it should be submitted. So kind of working backwards, so you're prepared to do it, and that you leave that time, because even if you're working in different time zones, that kind of helps structure that a bit more. So that's my only feedback.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. So congratulations not only to Danni, but all the medalists, the finalists, and the competitors. We also have a competitor sign. All of you. For us, you are all winners, because you made it up to this point with great efforts. So you are trying to meet deadlines, you're trying to complete tasks, follow feedback, see other people, what they are doing, social media, optional tasks, abstracts. So, and all this inside working on your dissertations, doing research, and under the pandemic situation. So I think you deserve many congratulations, and as Danni mentioned, we are open to hear from you even further. So the group is still open. You can still communicate in the group. You can still contact us on our social media. You can visit our website. So we would like to support you, regardless of whether you are winners or not. We are still trying to support, and if you look on our social media, we are supporting even competitors from last years. We're trying to follow what they're doing, retweet their posts, show interest. So we would like to keep a community of people that not only in this year, so that we can, even from previous years, so you can even find interesting research in different from last year, and the next year competitors may contact you if they have a similar research to work on. So this is what we would like to build a community. We're grateful to the deepest degree for all your support. Danni, do you have to add something?
Yes. Okay, I like to
Actually, maybe I should also display the final results so that we are aware of the final. So let me share my screen. Can you see the the final results. You see, Danni is the number 1. TNC number 2. Marybeth number 3. It seems that Danni has a great advantage that it seems that they are holding a secret. Who knows what secret is it? But anyway, so Danni, would you like to say something as a conclusion?
Okay, I'd like to thank all presenters today for your wonderful presentations. I think everyone is a winner here. And I also like to thank our coordinator, Alexandros, for organizing this event and making today a success. And I wish all the best in your future studies. And you can always keep touch by having a WhatsApp group or Skype group or visit the website of the IDSP. And yeah, right.
Actually, as a last thing, I think I would also offer some, let's say, reputation to Hannah, who was the number 1 on our leaderboard. So Hannah, can you also say something because you are a winner of the first preliminary section? We would like to hear your opinion.
Hi. It was a really good experience, actually. Like the sort of working on sort of creating the presentations and stuff has actually really helped me work on how I wanted to sort of actually word a lot of my dissertation, as I'm still working on sort of writing up the findings and recommendations. So sort of having to actually write that was a brilliant experience. Thank you for all the feedback, and it's from both yourself and from the other candidates in the groups when we've commented on each other's work and stuff. And yeah, it's been a brilliant experience. And I agree with sort of like the suggestions that others have had about sort of implementing a timeline for next year as well, because that would definitely help with planning alongside other work. But yeah, thank you for the experience.
Yes, I could say that it may be a little unfair because we were merging departments that were not actually so close together. So we put you together with the CCM department, which is mostly with MAs, and you were doing an MSc. So initially we were trying to put just for each department one finalist, but it may be unfair because there may be 5 people competing for one position and you are without any competition. So we couldn't find something that is satisfying everyone. So you may feel a little
no, I think it still worked well, like with the sort of 2 groups still.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be an issue for you because you can still consider yourself a winner for the first phase. And would like to offer you a congratulatory medal for the first phase. Congratulations.
And I think your project was the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone wants to add anything? You are Ahmad. You seem a little willing to speak.
Sorry?
Would you like to say something also? Actually, can you
I would like to thank you for the experience. Actually, you know that I was very, very, very busy, very distracted also with my dissertation because I had a deadline on 20th of July. Then I postponed my deadline to the 27th. But thank you for this opportunity because it allowed me also to crystallize some ideas in my dissertation. It allowed me to have a clearer image of what I've been doing because, you know, it was a kind of pressure, but it was good pressure.